Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Press Play Lifestyle Inspired podcast, where we do interviews with interesting and inspiring people like our new friend Dana. Hi, Dana.
Hello, Jackie.
And we help our listeners find the resources, tools, and support that they need to be their best inspired selves. So, how are you doing today, Miss Dana?
Doing fantastic. Another beautiful day in Mexico. Can't go wrong.
Oh, it's probably warmer there than it is here. I live in the not so sunny Midwest in Milwaukee, and
Ah,
it's not snowing today, so that's my big win.
that is a big win. And I do love the Midwest. That's where I grew up. But yes, it is in the 80s today. Very sunny.
That's a nice day. That's a very nice day. Not too hot, not too cold, a little bit just right. So, Dana, why don't you take a moment to introduce yourself to the audience and tell them a little bit about you and what you do?
Okay. Well, I retired to Mexico with my husband in 2016. Before that, I had been a paralegal for 30 some years doing, estate work, personal injury, you name it. And that was a really rewarding career. At the same time, my husband was a pastor. And so, as a pastor's wife, that I could talk for hours about those challenges, those
Yeah.
challenges. But when David and I retired in 2016, we got to Mexico, and that's a whole nother story. Um, and realized, there's a lot of people out there that probably are in the same boat as us, having to do something creative to retire earlier. And we could help those people. And so we got busy. We learned what it was to be an online marketer and spent a ton of money at courses and conferences and coaching to just learn this like on the fast track. And now we're able to give back. And that's what we've been doing for the last couple of years is just content, value, and loving on people.
Oh, that's so nice. Well, what a great way to retire into, right? Like, it wasn't like you had to escape what you were doing. You didn't hate what you were doing every day. It just had a new opportunity to serve the community. That's beautiful. That's great. So, what do you guys like? What is your favorite program that you're working on right now?
Well, my heart goes out to I've got a time management coaching program that I am super passionate about, and I think that was birthed. When you get in this business, you see all these people that have their expertise, right? And David's a strategy planner. He's been doing that and coaching pastors and staff for years, so that was an easy fit for him. But I'm like, well, what do I do? And so juggling so many things as a pastor's wife and as a mom and as a time management, people were always saying, Dana, how do you get it all done? And so that those memories started coming back to me, and I'm like, I can do this. I can help people take control of their time. We can even manufacture some time, which sounds a little crazy, and that's where I've put most of my efforts and attention over the last couple of months.
So, what are some of people's like biggest time wasters that they don't realize they have? Like, because we all know we shouldn't, or I don't should on people, but we shouldn't do a lot of social media or we shouldn't blah blah blah. But what are those things that people don't always realize are time wasters in their day?
Well, it's certainly the social media piece. And right now, especially too with the lockdown, I think a lot of us are scrolling. It's our way of feeling connected. But even when that crisis isn't happening, I think we can get caught up in whether it's the drama or, just what people are doing. And that's one of my biggest problems as well, is just I have to set a timer when I'm going to do any social media stuff because otherwise I get caught up in everybody's lives. And I'm a people pleaser and a fixer. So I'm always, trying to figure something out, some solution.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I wonder what your perspective is on this, but I have found that different types of people procrastinate in different kinds of ways. Like for me, which I'm a big nerd, And so when I get really stressed out, I go take a course, which I know sounds like super crazy, but and now my big thing is awareness. I'm like, do you really need that? Because you have 800 other ones you haven't done. And what are you stressed out about right now that you avoid doing, right? So I think we all have different, like it's not always the Facebook scroll, but it's the equivalent of um because I'm a big learner, of course, what am I going to do to feel good? I'm going to go learn something.
Right.
So have you seen that as well, where people kind of have their like characteristic time waster that they think is productive? Because I can pretend learning is productive.
Yes. Well, and learning is good. It has its place, but it fits in with everything else. And so I put together a time planner for folks just to kind of understand what, especially business people, because that's really who my focus is, and people that are trying to build an online business, because that segues beautifully with what David does. But um, yeah, having an organized time set aside for each of those things is helpful. And other people are afraid to go on camera. So they know they want to do a video, or they should do a live, they should be in contact with their audience, and yet they don't. And so what do? Well, they go do the laundry, or they write a letter to Aunt Mabel. They do all the things to avoid. And I think avoidance is another big one, like you were saying, is when there's something we don't want to do. We can find all sorts of things to fill our day to avoid that one important thing. And
Yeah.
when you got a business, you got to do those income producing activities. And
Yeah,
that's talking
exactly.
to people. They're not just necessarily going to get out their credit card without you making or setting a relationship, setting an example, giving them some value.
Absolutely. I think that there's a ton to that. And I think we can trick ourselves into thinking we're productive too, right? Because if I got the laundry done and the dishes done and swept the floor, I'm feeling like I've got the world by the short hairs, right? Because I'm like, woohoo. And literally, I maybe did all of that to avoid like that 15 minutes that I need to go live on Facebook or whatever my case may be for others as well. And so I think we have to be careful that when we work at home and we run an online business, our worlds they collide a little heavier than maybe someone who is a traditional uh, job, right? If you go to your office, you do what you do at your office, and you come home. But when they blur, it's that when the lines blur, you have to carve time out differently, I think.
You do. You really
Yeah.
do. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. I love the word integration, when you can integrate your life and your business. And so it just sort of all flows together, but you still need a plan. And a lot of times people don't realize that. And I find that some of my people that have a full time job are more productive with their business building than the people that are doing it full time.
Right, because they know they only have like an hour and 15 minutes to do all the things, right? So they're not gonna like fill the day.
Exactly. And that is sacred time. They know they're doing it then. And why don't we, as full time marketers, do the same thing?
Yeah. That's
So
an
that's
interesting thought. So as a marketer then, so you're helping with time management, you're helping with people who are like have an online business. I'm sure you help lots of people, but if if there was like a to-do list every day, what are like things that you have to do in your opinion and your husband's opinion every day as a marketer of any business, right? Because if you don't have sales, you don't have a business, so it doesn't matter. So what
right.
is every single day somebody should make sure they put in their schedule so that they can have a successful business? Do you have thoughts on that?
That's a great question. In fact, that time planner that I have, and I'll be able to get happy to give out to folks today, has those pieces in it so that you can define that for yourself. But of course, you've got your income producing activities, things that are going to bring in the money. Um, and those are broken down to kind of give you an idea of what that looks like. And of course, personal development, that, having that quiet time, having that time of gratefulness, whether it's prayer or meditation or reading or doing your courses, that piece is important too. And, it has to be balanced, and you don't want to do everything all one day. You want to kind of have a nice balance every day. And
Yeah.
of course, getting good sleep is important. And I know when I was working full time and juggling everything, that's where a lot of my, I was not taking the best care of myself. And, sleep was not happening that often, or little bitty nights, and exercise wasn't happening, and, spending time with God wasn't happening. And that was huge for me because I'm a pastor's wife. I was feeling a bit like a fraud. All these people are doing their Bible studies and doing this. And I'm like, I'm not. And I had to take a step back and realize that was an important piece for me. And that was a piece that was missing. And so one of the first things I did when I started working with a life coach was, we got to get back on track. I need to make that a priority. So those are a few things, but that tool will help you as well.
Yeah, and that makes total sense because I am in my journey as well. I, s- I- the biggest awakening for me was actually like embracing a pause because I was always going and always doing and always working, and I have 4 kids and just not a pastor's wife, but CFO's wife, so it's kind of busy too. And what I realized when I was forced to take a moment was that I was kind of the one that was lost in all of that, right? I wasn't working out. I wasn't doing my own prayers. I wasn't meditating. I wasn't walking. I was really not doing anything for me. Um, but I always thought I was because I taking care of my kids is for me, ish, right? Not really. And it was the same kind of thing. It was like, okay, now I have a moment. What am I not doing? And I think I'm more productive now that I sleep, that I walk, that I'm doing things for just physical and mental well-being. Our brain needs a break too, right? To just kind of reset.
It absolutely does. And when you can start caring for yourself, then you become better and you present better. And I'm always trying to be the best me I can be.
Yeah.
In my daily affirmations, that's one of the things I tell myself in the mirror.
Yeah. So be the best you and not necessarily the best. I think that's part of it though for me. I mean, a lot of people say it's a midlife crisis, but for me it was actually more like a midlife awakening where realizing I wanted to actually live in my life too. Um, and I think that we all have to figure out how, like the thing you always cut out is you, right? Like
That is
that's,
right.
you've cut out your sleep. You didn't, take something away from your family.
Right.
So what are some great tips or good, bad, and different? That's an interesting way to do that. Yeah, I was moving so everyone who's not on who's on audio, I was trying to move the volume button on and it showed my work calendar, which is cool. So
That's
so I
very cool.
schedule everything.
Yes, very appropriate because that will help.
Yeah. So luckily that's the thing that was showing back there. So what are some good tips, which is where I was kind of going with, and maybe the answer's, serendipitous, but for integration, because I love that word that you used. One of the things I talk about in my private practice stuff is um, I say work-life balance because that's the search engine optimization word, but I don't believe in balance. I think it's more of an integration. Some days, work takes all of the time. Some days life might take all the time. Some days neither of those happen and you're just spending the day at, a funeral or something like that. So what are some ways that people can try to integrate more fully their lives, right? From not just having work and life as these separate things, but that mashup that works well for people.
Well, I came up with a kind of an acronym,
Mhm.
and it's four. The word plan. That's kind of the answer, the
That's your thing, yeah, for
overarching
sure.
answer. But plan, and the P would stand for priority. And when you're planning events, activities, work, whatever it is, on your calendar, that's key. You want to plan, you want to use a calendar because sometimes seeing the time you have available in a day is helpful.
Yeah.
but you should prioritize them. And I've often said, if you've got an overwhelming task list, like many of us do, pick the top five. What are those top five things that you need to get done? And it could be, getting the laundry done. It could be recording a live, but you know what's important in your life at that time. So P is plan, or the P in plan is prioritize. The L then would be leisure. And you always want to include a time of rest in each day, of leisure, of fun. Is that walking around the block? Is that reading a chapter out of the Bible? Is that a date night? What is that? But something fun, something different, and that should be every day as well. The A in plan would be achievement. That's something that you're working toward. Um, Learning and growing every day is important. And it doesn't matter how old we are. We should always be looking for some new nugget. And that can be helpful in business too, because anything you learn, you can pass on and are all of a sudden this problem solver, this expert, this,
Yeah.
hero. So continue to learn, continue to grow. Maybe that's taking a class, at a local community, or now online, whatever works best for you. And then the N, that one I struggled with. What do I say here? But it's neatly organized. And I don't know, chaos can be fine. Some people thrive in chaos, but I'm not necessarily okay with chaos all the time. So to organize your time, and what does that look like? Using, your calendar, using a daily mode of operation. I've got a DMO that I follow every day, and I've even given myself points. It's some incentive, whatever it means for you to organize so that you'll do it.
Yeah.
And so that's the plan formula, kind of in a nutshell, for
Yeah.
your daily schedule.
Yeah, I love that. I think I'm totally on board with the neatly organized. I actually spent 20 years in healthcare IT as a product and project manager. My master's degree is in project management. And so I'm an organizer and I like things neat. And somehow I married like the absolute opposite human being of me. And he's a pile person, and there are actually people like this I hear, where he's like, but if I don't see it, it doesn't exist. And I'm like, but it's everywhere. How do you see it? So I'm in the neat camp as well. I like things at least findable or in some sort of organizational strategy, because I don't want to spend time looking for the supplies or the input I need to do the work that I want to sit down and do. I just want to do it, right? I just want to get down and do it. So I've I see that as an opportunity. Now, what would you say to someone like my husband though, who is like the pile guy, and that's how he organizes his work?
Well, sometimes you have to look at what works, and if that's what's working, um, you can maybe try to give them a different option to try, if you feel with their personality that it's going to be effective. But sometimes if piles work. But if piles are making your wife crazy, maybe we should think of something else to try.
Yeah, we've been married 20 years, so I think the piles are staying.
Yeah,
It does make me crazy, but I still think that they might be staying.
hide the piles then,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
disguise the piles.
Yeah, I was like, can we have like a pile room where you just put all your piles in that special? Yeah, that didn't work either because then I had to clean that room eventually. But that's funny. So I do like the great response, right? The response being, you've got to neatly means what it means to you, and organize means what it means to you, and you have to find out how that can help. um I wonder if there's some like specialty area in planning for like people who are married couples running a business, because there are like definitely the different personalities, like you coupled up not because you were exactly the same, hopefully, or you complement one another. And so there's some integration in that too, right? finding what two people complement one another. Like you said, your husband very into the strategy, does a lot of that, and you're kind of tactical. You're like, okay, but now we have to plan that strategy. We have to execute on it. We have to get things done. Have you found anything that worked really well for like you and your husband working together, and that might help others who are sort of trying to integrate work life and their relationship because they're business partners, their life partner?
Well, certainly I've known couples that cannot work together. David and I happen to be very blessed to be able to work together. And I think that is because we are so different. And his strengths are not my strengths, and vice versa. So, simple answer, play to your strengths.
Mm.
And if that means you're butting heads because you're both strong at the same thing, then you got to kind of make some compromises. But when you realize that your strength is different than his strength and you can play to that, then your business is that much stronger.
Yeah, I think
Because
that's a
something,
good thought. Yeah.
like I'm not good with the tech stuff at all. I could learn it and that would be fine, but he thrives on it. So he doesn't want to get on the calls, he doesn't want to do all of that. And I love it. So that's just one example of where he's playing to his strengths and I'm playing to mine, and we're both happy, and the business
Yeah.
is doing well because
That's a
we are
great, that's a
different.
great, I love that piece of advice is, if piles work for you, use that. And neatly is how you're defining it. If you're partnering with someone, either life partner or, business partners, find out who's really strong at that and maybe let them like own that piece and have that ownership so you can both thrive in that relationship together. Well,
Well said.
Dana, thank you so much for all of this amazing insight into kind of working online. It's really pertinent right now. There's a lot of people who are really trying to turn brick and mortar into more online or finding ways to generate new kinds of revenue and more uncertainty. So we appreciate so much you guys taking time out of your day to give us some insights. And where can people find out more about your business and the offerings that you and or your husband have to share with us?
Oh, absolutely. Well, thank you, Jackie, for having me. I love to share my journey, because if that's going to help someone else, it's just that's what I'm in this for. It's what gets me out of bed. But we're on social media, and we've got a website, davidndana.com. So David, the letter N, Dana.com. And that time planner I was talking about, you can get access to, is davidndana.com/time.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll
So
make sure to put that in the show notes so that everybody that's interested in managing their time a little more effectively can find that on your website.
yeah,
And I
and
know
that'll
you're on
give them a
Facebook too, right? You're on Facebook and all
yep,
kinds of everywhere. You
LinkedIn.
guys are everywhere.
Yep, yep. That's one of those things that we want to have people find us. And with that time planner, there is a 30-minute free consultation with me too. We can kind of dive into some of your time issues. So be sure you're looking for that.
Wonderful. Well, thanks again, Dana, for your time. I look forward to staying in touch as you and your husband unveil some wonderful programs that help people that are trying to do their online businesses. So I hope you have a great day.
Thanks. You do the same.